right, ladies. So, today we are going to have an amazing conversation with Belinda Rosenblum, who is a money expert. She knows all the things about money. And it's funny because Belinda and I were talking before we hit record about how a couple of episodes I apparently seeded this whole conversation about money. And I'm so excited to have her on because we have so many mindset blocks and issues that come up around money. And part of being a dangerous woman and part of living a life that you love and creating a life that you love has to do with money. And so, Belinda, thank you so much for coming on and responding to my last minute messages and
It's
agreeing to
all
be here.
good. It's all good, Crystal. I mean, I love what you do. I love how you and I have this almost like philosophy or like style that's very similar. It's like we
Yeah,
love up our people, but we still are willing to give them the kick in the ass
yeah,
that they need to
definitely.
to keep going to the next level, right? Because we're high achievers, we coach high achievers, and yet it's like who's looking out for us? Who's
Yes,
looking out to make sure that we're getting the life that we want, the
yes,
the way that we want to be without um the overwhelm, the judgment, the shame, the imposter syndrome, all of that we talk about. And I feel like money is such a trigger of all of those things for people,
it
right? And it's like
really
we
is.
forget that money is really a tool to help achieve the things that we want. It's more like people treat money like a burden. If
Mm-hmm.
money was like the boyfriend, it's like the ex-boyfriend that nobody, everyone's hiding from and nobody wants to see. It's like, no, 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 that's you want to love up. That's the one you want to welcome in. That's the one you want to like write love letters to.
Right.
That's not how we treat it. We treat it like the scorned ex,
Yeah,
and that's not going to
yeah.
get us the life that we really want.
Yeah, and who doesn't understand that analogy?
Right.
We've all been there.
Yeah, and I mean, full disclosure, like I have had my moment where I am sitting at my dining room table face down facing three huge stacks of bills and mail. My dad had a
Yeah.
stroke when I was 21. I became family CFO at that age. I just graduated college, like just taken the
Wow.
CPA exam, and it was like it was so much. And I had a big accounting firm job, right? So I was on the road 5 days a week, and and even though I taught money, it's like just because we do it doesn't mean that we have it all figured out. We're just
Mm-hmm.
a little more comfortable with it. But I was doing this big accounting firm stuff, but at home, I was a mess. I
Ooh.
just like started this rinse and repeat cycle of avoiding my finances. And
Yeah.
I think partly why I'm so passionate about teaching it is because I know that shame at the core of like
Mm-hmm.
knowing that everything looks like it's fine on the outside, but behind the scenes, I would take every bit of mail. I'd come home on Friday night and put it like on a desk, in a drawer, in a basket. And then there was just one day when my sister said to me, are you handling everything? Like you haven't talked about it. And I'm just wondering. And she was in
Yeah.
college. My parents had been divorced years before. And I was like, you know what? I, everything isn't quite together. Let me come home and look at it all.
Yeah.
And I think that it was my like come to Jesus moment, which is funny because I'm
Mm-hmm.
Jewish, but it was like that moment where I was like, no one's gonna save me. Like
Yeah.
if I want to create a different life than how I grew up, because I watched my parents got divorced when I was young. My mom was trying to be an entrepreneur, over promising, over delivering, overworking. And there was a part of me that wanted something different,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that was still the pattern that I was repeating. You know
Yes.
how you talk about like people
Yep.
either do the same thing or the opposite thing? I call it like
Mm-hmm.
people either match or they mirror, like they do the opposite to what they see. And sometimes, despite our conscious efforts that we want to create something different, our
Yeah.
unconscious efforts often create the same thing. So I
Yes.
think to some extent, I was living that way in my life. And then when it came time to do all this finance stuff, I was like, hit the overwhelm button.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was 28. I had just bought a two-family house, which felt like this huge, big deal as a single woman, a dangerous woman, right? And then I faced the music around all those bills and mail, and it took me 6 months to get through it all. Because it turns out when you avoid your bills, they get more colorful and they keep coming, even though I was like committed to getting through them. They just kept coming at me. And I'd have a friend come over literally and open up the mail for me. Like I had gotten so paralyzed in that overwhelm.
Yeah.
And then that was when I was 28. And then I actually like worked on my mindset. That was a big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because somewhere I was still afraid and ashamed of handling my own money, given the situation that I had gotten myself into. And
Yeah.
then also I needed tactics and strategy. Like I needed a system to keep track of the paper. I needed to set aside time to look at all the bills. So it took 6 months and some support. There was no money coach like me at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I figured it out. And I remember that I went to dinner at one point with my dad and my sister, and I was a different woman because I could look them
Yeah.
in the eye. I wasn't holding on to the shame in that kind of way. And
I love that.
I feel like
I
we all have that possibility, but it takes us putting on our big gold panties, realizing that the more that we can feel like we own our money, my company is
Mm-hmm.
called Own Your Money, that
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to feel owned by it.
You know what I love about your story is it reminds me a lot of when I think about why I became a life coach, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And you could have that thought that, oh, you're a life coach, your life should be no, my no,
Yeah, right.
I
Partly why we
no,
do what we do is because we turned our mess into our
exactly,
message.
right,
It's like we had to figure it out, and now we want to shorten the learning curve for everybody else, right? So we don't
exactly,
have to go through this.
exactly.
Hmm.
So I love that you brought up shame too, because I think that I mean, I know that shame is the one thing that will keep you from
Hmm.
making changes, right? Because it's like, let me just keep hiding this. And what you don't face, you can't change, right? So when you were able to finally, face down, okay, I don't feel good about this. I have a lot of shame, but I'm going to do something about it, right?
Yeah,
You changed your life. Now, when you're
absolutely.
dealing with clients,
Hmm.
and do you work mainly with women or is it
Yeah,
women,
mainly
men?
with women.
Maybe,
So,
yeah.
a little fill in the blank. So that was when I was 28, right?
Mm-hmm.
Figured it out. Became a self-made millionaire at 33.
Woo, we like that.
We do, right? Now doubled that. And then now I'm 50, but in between. So that was 33. 35, I am such a high achiever. I had an early midlife crisis. Why wait till
Okay.
45 if I could just do it at 35, right? So I left my job. I like lived, eat, pray, love. I volunteered in Costa Rica. I backpacked around India by myself. And then 36, I started the business of Own Your Money.
Okay.
And I mostly did personal finance for the first 12 years. I used to have a TV show, a radio show, wrote the book, started courses before everybody else was.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2019, really pivoted to help small business owners more because
Okay.
I felt like they have a whole extra level of challenge around money. And I think
Mm-hmm.
as an entrepreneur and having seen my mom struggle, I had an extra affinity for
Yeah.
helping women and particularly helping moms.
Yeah.
So when I was in personal finance, I'd work a lot with moms or couples or single women who are like, I just want to figure this out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who I can trust and who I can learn from. Um, and then now that I'm in the business owner space, yeah, it's almost entirely women. I have a
Yeah.
few men that have hired me more for private coaching and
Mm-hmm.
consulting. And like I took one um, man from like 190 grand to a 2.4 million business in 3.5 years.
So
You know,
basically, Belinda's saying y'all should listen to her because she knows what she's talking about.
I'm making your money.
She's making money. So I
Exactly.
mean, I'm fascinated. This is something that is like a person. I have so many money hangups. I work with so many clients that have money hangups. So I
Mhm.
love that you're sharing this information.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think is, because we talked beforehand about, on the personal side and as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
what is the big hang up? Why is it that we have so much shame around money or we don't want to talk about it, especially as women, right? Even when we make it, we don't want to tell people, right? Because there are these, hidden rules about what you can and can't say about money. So tell me what your thoughts are about the biggest mindset issues and what you see in the women that you work with.
Absolutely. So, the book I mentioned that I wrote along the way is called Self Worth to Net Worth, right? And so
Okay.
it's like Yeah, 12 keys to creating wealth inside and out. And
Oh,
we'll put the
where
link.
do you order this?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, let me get on Amazon now. Where can we
It's
get
at
this from
it's
Amazon?
at selfworthbook.com. Literally,
Okay,
like no one was writing about it. Like I literally own Self-Worth Book. Like
I love
it
that.
was since like for 10 years, right? I published the book. But one of the most important things is that I wrote it with a psychotherapist
Okay.
because I was committed to understanding, and I find it fascinating, but to understand this and to understand the psychology behind money. Like
Mm,
why, is it so challenging for us? And not just to speak from like an intellectual point of view, but to really understand it in my heart and from all of the people that I've worked with. And partly in that, year and a half that I took off, I almost became a financial advisor. But what I found is that I didn't want to feel like the doctor writing the prescription. I
mhm.
wanted to be more of that financial therapist, helping them talk through like, why are they making six figures and not paying themselves enough? Right? Or
Mm,
still in debt on the personal side, or not feeling safe with money. And so that's really why, partly why I love this stuff, because I can
yeah.
give you all of the tactics and strategy, but like,
Right.
if you even look at my situation, like I know how to physically open a piece of mail, right? Like, summa cum laude. They teach you how to open a thing of mail. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but
Right.
but it's not just about that, right? It's about all of the mindset and the beliefs, and the power of our unconscious. It's like if
Hmm.
we have a belief about something, we like to be right.
Yes.
Our brain does, and we will keep
Yes.
finding evidence for being right.
Hmm.
And so what I find at the core is that we aren't taking money at face value, as a means of exchange.
Okay.
When I would speak and I would say, like, what does money mean to you? People would say freedom and power and anxiety and stress and like the whole gamut of things, but it would
Hmm.
rarely be like a way to buy the things that I want to buy. And
Mm.
money came to be originally because it got complicated to trade cows and chickens and grain and, the things that people needed to be able
Yeah.
to live. So this became what they could use. And so, I feel like what's happening is we layer so much emotion onto it and so much of our own worthiness on top of it.
Hmm.
And we rarely view money as a way to help us achieve our goals, right? And I would ask people like, what is the dream or goal that you have for your life that money can help facilitate?
Mm.
And that you realize like money doesn't have to be the bad guy here,
Right.
that as you have more money, and this is like personally very I think it really helps drive me, is that I feel like money gives you choices and gives you
Right.
options, and it
Hmm.
gave me the choice. I dated one guy from 18 to 28 and being able to buy my own property and basically kick him out. I mean, he's a very nice man, but when it came down to it, he wasn't the right one for me. But
Right.
it was my house and my property, and I could be like, bye, And
Right.
I think that a lot of women don't have that ability, particularly as we're
Hmm.
married, particularly as we have kids, um, and we can feel very trapped.
Hmm.
And sometimes even in our businesses, when we don't learn how to manage money in our business, oftentimes we're coached by all the business coaches, just make money. It's all revenue
Right.
generated. And another, like, don't follow my path, but learn from my mess is in my second full year of business, I grossed $155,000. So it was
Hmm.
like 65K in my first full year, 155K in my second full year. Seems amazing, right? Guess how much
Right.
I took home?
How
Just
much?
just guess. Everybody
10,000.
listening, just guess. How much?
10,000.
No, worse.
3,000.
$3,000. So everybody else got paid, right? And
Yeah.
so I find that sometimes as people are making money, either they're following one of two paths, especially to get to that 100K, right?
Hmm.
They're hustling, they're working, they're saying yes to all the opportunities, right? All the possible ways they can bring in revenue. Um, and then they're just getting burnt out and feeling
Yeah.
trapped, right? And they're making profit, but they're just working a ton, and they're kind of like, well, I
Hmm.
got to 100K, how am I ever going to get to 200 or 300K, because I just can't double my hours, like that's not physically possible.
Right.
But then there's this other group that hires all the people, the team, the coaches, like, they hear they have to do Facebook ads. They hear they need a social media manager. They need a virtual assistant. They hire all the people. And then they're left like, wait a second, everybody got paid except for me.
Right.
Like, what is going on here? And either way, they end up with me at around 100K, 100, 150, right? Because either they're like, I want to grow and I can't work more, or I want to grow and I need to get paid. Like, I can't keep this up. And so, I got to this point where I was like, you know what? I have to stop listening to just all the people that are like, just make money, just focus on revenue.
Right.
Because I know, like, profit matters. We have to start to really prioritize profit and not feel bad about it, not feel shame about it. Realize, wait a second, the more money I make, the more impact I'm creating in the world, right? The more people I'm helping, the more people are paying me. And honestly, when people pay, they pay attention. It's like when it's free, they're only paying a little tiny bit of attention.
Right.
When they're paying more dearly, it's more meaningful to them. They have a higher commitment to it. And I mean, just think like easy examples. If I just did a big presentation actually last week, and one of the examples I used, and it was all about pricing your services, because that's another one of my sweet spots. We can talk about that anytime you want to. But that basically, if you buy a $20 pair of sunglasses versus a $600 pair of sunglasses, they may look the same, but you will treat them very differently.
Right.
Right? You will have a higher level of commitment to the $600 pair. You will have a case for them. Every time you take them off your face, you'll put them in the case. You'll close the case. You'll know exactly where the case is at all times.
Yeah.
The $20 pair, if you don't have it in a couple of weeks, and it's scratched up, you won't worry about it.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of times we do people a disservice by trying to charge them the $20 when really the value we're delivering is the 400, the 600, the 800, the higher level. And so,
do you find the way that people charge though has more to do with them and their thoughts about like,
completely,
people aren't going to pay me, even though they know the service is worth it. Like, do you get a lot of entrepreneurs that struggle in that area when it comes to pricing?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. There's so many limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
We could do a whole separate one just on pricing, right? In terms of all the limiting beliefs we tell ourselves, like people won't pay it, right? And who am I to charge it? And am I going to have a lot of pressure to perform, so to speak, if I'm charging more money? And, the reality though, is that in a lot of cases, particularly for us who do deliver great service, who do know what we're doing, right? Who are ambitious women, that we show up and we deliver value.
Right.
It's almost like I can't not like I can't open my mouth and not deliver value, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so what's happening though is it's kind of like we're trying to, like, we are a Louis Vuitton purse, but we're charging like we're a fake at $100. And then we wonder why our stuff isn't selling. It's because nobody actually can believe that you're worth and you're going to achieve the results, because they see the price and they think, well, it just can't be. She can't be that good. Yeah. And so again, it's that like we think we're doing people a favor by undercharging, but really we're just killing our own profit and we're making ourselves work that much harder. And we're not realizing that when we get paid our value, so much more becomes possible for us in our level of service, for us in our own confidence, for them in the results that they're going to achieve, because they're going to show up differently, right? Like when I bought a $10 challenge versus an $18,000 coaching program, you can be damn sure that I show up for every one of those coaching sessions at the 18K. When I bought a $10 challenge, I did it just to like check out my friend and, support what she was up to. I didn't attend anything, full disclosure, like not one live session. And she's amazing. And, I'm sure I would have learned a ton, but I wasn't as committed, so I think, to your question, like we layer all of our limiting beliefs that we have around money, around success, around worthiness, around what we deserve onto money. And part of what I teach, what I did for personal finance and what I now do for business owners is to find the space where they can become more black and white around their numbers, where they can start to separate out the emotion and like just put down on paper, like, well, what is your net worth? What do we want it to be? What are you making in your business? Like revenue, business expenses, and accounting profit. And then we can look at like, okay, where do we want to allocate that? Like I have an adjusted profit first method because I find that a lot of people start it and then they don't finish it and then they feel unsuccessful with money. And it just validates, see, look, I'm not good at money.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And the more that you tell yourself that, the more you push it away.
Mm-hmm.
We're such strong like magnets and attractors, or at least we have the potential to be.
Mm-hmm.
And when we believe that we don't deserve money, that people won't pay, we try and like get in other people's pockets. So it's like we're on a sales call and either we don't make the offer we need to, or we make it and then we keep talking. And
Right.
we're like, well, if that's too much, I could do this, blah, blah, blah. It's not serving us. It's
Mm-hmm.
not serving your client. You want them to be able to confidently, powerfully want to sign up with you. Most of my
Right.
clients are experts and coaches in some capacity, either like one-to-one coaching, coaching programs or memberships or speakers, and if you make an offer to somebody and you're coming from this place of like, please buy from me, I'd
Mm-hmm.
really appreciate it. I'm not sure if my stuff is worth it, but if you give me the money, we'll find out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you come from that place, who's going to say yes to that? Whereas
And
if you
they're
come,
unsure and you're unsure. Everybody's unsure.
no one's buying
Yeah.
in that case. We say like a confused buyer doesn't buy and a confused seller doesn't sell well. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to be so comfortable in the value that you're creating and what you're charging that it's like, pass the salt, pass the pepper. Here's what I charge.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
here's why it's so worth it for you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like what people don't necessarily realize is that at the core, they first need to actually get comfortable with their own numbers, or
Mm-hmm.
they will carry this underlying uncertainty into every other money conversation that they're having.
Mm.
Because, and I know I lived through this, right? It's like, I was great on the outside, but don't ask too many questions because I don't really know. And it
Mm-hmm.
amazes me how many business owners like don't know their profit. And I'm just like, well, how do you know what's working? How do you
Right.
know if like all of this effort that you're putting in to earn revenue is actually making you something to be able to take home and pull out?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I created this pay yourself calculator so people could figure out like what do I need to make on a top level from a revenue line? And then how is that going to filter through to be able to set aside money for taxes, for my business expenses, for me getting paid so that me getting paid is not an afterthought.
Yeah.
But it's actually a key part of you reverse engineering it. And honestly, the same thing applies to professionals because I think that they sort of do this, well, what do I feel like I can earn without thinking, well, how does that relate to the lifestyle I want to have, to the where I live? Like I used to live in New York City. Like it's not cheap in New
No.
York. And it's just the reality of the situation, right? And so, I think that once you can get honest about money for yourself, once you can start to let go of some of the like glass ceiling and some of
Yeah.
the blocks that we have around it, and you can realize, wait a second, I don't have to be these limiting beliefs. I don't have to follow that legacy and follow the limiting patterns
Mm-hmm.
that I saw growing up. I can cut that cord and I can make a choice that I am going to create a new legacy for me and for my family.
Yeah.
Now, I can choose differently to be the self made millionaire, to lead others in that kind of a path. And it's kind of risky. It's kind of dangerous sometimes
Yeah. It's
because, like,
scary.
literally, like my friends and colleagues, when I started a business, this was in 2007, they literally did an intervention for me in the first like 6 months of my business. They're like, wait, why are you leaving a nice 6-figure job? And no one was coaching around money at the time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was just not a thing. Occasionally you'd get like Gene Chatsky or David Bach on the Today Show, but like that's it. And now she's like a friend and in my phone. And so
Yeah.
it's so amazing that like how much can change. But they literally were like, how can you make money from this? Like my big goal was to like help people realize that they needed to save. And then the recession hits in 2008 and I'm literally on the 5 o'clock news in Boston talking about money stress and what people
Mm-hmm.
can start to do because nobody was talking about it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes when we want to take a stand for something, we have to step out. We need to be that dangerous and we need to change patterns, right? And we need to realize that we can still love our parents, right? We can still like do a great job and get paid well for it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's the and that sometimes we think, okay, I have to choose. I can
Yeah, it's
either,
the either or, not the and that
yeah,
that's the way that
yeah.
society conditions us. I think is that we can't have both, so pick which one.
Right.
right? And
Right. And yeah.
I imagine that you get a lot of women, because it's something that I hear, it's something that I grew up thinking, is that I'm just not good with money, right? And you
Mm-hmm,
carry
mm-hmm.
this belief, I'm not good with money,
Yeah.
and then you act that out, right? So
Yeah.
when you're talking about the shame and not facing things,
Yeah.
all of that impacts your ability to be able to do the things that consciously you're like, yeah, I want to create this dream life. I want to have a successful business. I want to
Mm-hmm.
elevate in my profession, and be able to have impact. But subconsciously your brain's like, yeah, no, that's very uncomfortable. We kind
Right.
of like the struggle. We're not
Yeah.
used to this. How do you help clients overcome all of that? All of that unconscious, I didn't even know I was really thinking that is
Mm-hmm.
battling against what we feel like we really want. Like, how do you help people get past that? Other
Sure.
than this book that I am immediately going to order.
If anybody wants to order it, send me a quick note or pop us on Instagram or something. Let me know if you ordered it.
Yes,
I'll autograph it for you. It's all good.
yes,
I'll be
yes,
happy to
yes.
send you one, Crystal. I'm excited to.
I'm DMing you like right now while we're talking. Please give me the link.
Okay, so a couple of things. And remind me, and I know we're sort of at the time that we wanted, so we'll have to see where we go.
Yeah, we gotta do
But
part two. This
yeah.
is good stuff here.
Okay. So remind me to talk about effort in a second.
Okay.
Okay. Because
Okay.
that is a big deal and really relates to money. But so um, the first piece you asked me, a lot of it is becoming aware. What are those beliefs? Is
Mhm.
it that I think I'm not good at math? Like I've heard you say that before, or I'm not
Mhm.
good at money, or
Mhm.
what are those things that we have just been telling ourselves again and again? But just because we tell ourselves these same things again and again doesn't make them true.
Right.
They feel true because we've literally been brainwashing ourselves into
Exactly.
believing I'm not good at money or I'm not good at math. Now, the funny part is nowadays, like, I mean, if you're watching this on YouTube or something, I mean, my calculator is the size of my head, right? Like, you don't need to be good at math. You can get a
Right.
calculator, you use Excel, you use QuickBooks, you have a bookkeeper or an accountant.
Yeah.
I am not trying to turn people into bookkeepers, like, that's for sure. Most of the time, as you're reaching 100K, I want you to hire the right bookkeeper, and I'll give you some references and give you systems and stuff like that. And I think that what the first step is just recognizing, wait a second, I've been believing this BS. Can I
Mhm.
curse on here a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So just want to make sure. Some people don't like it. And so I call it our BS, right?
Mhm.
Standing for our belief systems that we have adopted. But it's really the
Ah.
bullshit that we tell ourselves
Uh-huh.
again and again and again.
Yeah.
And we decided that it's true. But
And
it's
then
kind
we
of like
act that out because
you,
we think it.
yes, you like
Yeah.
to be right. You continue the pattern. And then every time it comes up, you reinforce it. See, I'm
Yeah.
not good with money. See, I made this bad decision. Most of the time, you're making poor decisions with money because you actually don't have the facts, right?
Right.
Like when I mentioned like people are trying to run their business and they know revenue, they don't know profit. You can't make a good business decision without knowing your profit. Like
Mhm.
people, you won't be nearly as successful as you can be until you know your numbers, until you
Mhm.
can charge appropriately. And you just think like, can you imagine a really successful, powerful, six-figure, seven-figure CEO who doesn't know their numbers? Like if you're I met Sarah Blakely a couple months ago and I meant to ask her, but I feel like if you're chatting with these people about business, right? And if you were like
Mhm.
sitting on a plane with them or something, they would say, if you ask them like, well, how did you do in your business? They'd be like, do you want to know last month, last year, last quarter, compared to last quarter? Like
Mm.
they
Yeah.
make a point of knowing the data that is helping to drive their success.
Yeah.
And yet we think, oh, I'm not ready for that, or oh, I don't need to, oh, or I'm just not good with money or numbers, so I'll leave that to somebody else.
Mhm.
But we're basically like relinquishing the power that we can have with our money and with our businesses. And then we wonder why we don't get the results that we want.
Right.
It's like, because like it's a car and you're in the driver's seat and you're blindfolded and you don't realize that the key is in the ignition.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like we have
Mhm.
so much power, yet we haven't learned or felt comfortable to take off the blindfold, to look at the numbers, to separate
Mhm.
our own worthiness from how our business or our bank account is doing,
That is
you
so
know?
important.
Yeah,
Say
and we
that
we tie
again,
our
Belinda.
worth to our work.
Mhm.
And once you can separate those two and you can realize, okay, wait a second, the only reason why I'm earning this is because that's all I've asked for.
Mm.
And it's like if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So we need to find a way to figure out so you can like first sell yourself on it first. This is what I deserve to earn, whether it's in corporate or whether it's for your own business. And then this is what I'm going to ask for,
Mhm.
and to be willing to step up for yourself.
Yeah.
Ask for yourself because no one else is going to. It's kind of like Verizon isn't going to call you and say, "Oh, we have a new promotion. Do you want to save $100?" It's like your client isn't necessarily going to say to you, "You're way undercharging me. You sure you don't want to charge me an extra $1,000?" No, they're not going to do that,
I'm
right?
not
I
gonna
will
do
do
that.
that. I will tell you
Belinda,
if you
I
are
have done
undercharging.
that before, and then at the end, I'm like, shoot, why did I say that? Like, I'll be talking to somebody be like, that you need to be charging more than that. And now
Right.
I've learned to be like, after me, you
Yeah,
need to charge
higher.
more than that.
Exactly. And sometimes too it's about really convincing yourself of the value that you're delivering,
Yes.
and being so clear in the transformation that you're creating and the expensiveness of the problems that you're solving. And
Hmm.
it's like, when if I'm helping, I'm thinking of one client, like so she was one of our first cash flow CEO students. She went from $1,500 a month as a side hustle in a job she hated, now making over $21,000 a month with a
Hmm.
team of people. And she says to me on a coaching call, she's like, I'm not really sure what I should be doing because we now have like a
Right.
team of people
Yeah, the
doing all the
team.
things.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, now is when you get to be the CEO. Now
Hmm.
is when we get to grow your business and, really
You
look
get to
at
be the
what's the vision.
visionary.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
And I know now, like, she moved into her dream house and now they're expanding it. And, it's like all the things that seemed like a forever in the future,
Hmm.
maybe possibly, are becoming reality for her.
Yeah.
And the next person, I mean, she's in Israel. I know your audience is all over the place, and that's what's so cool about what we do,
Hmm.
right? Is that we can serve people. I mean, I've had clients in Qatar and England and Scotland and all over Europe and Australia, a bunch of them. And so she's in Israel in a very specific niche, right? Helping like women with or ultra orthodox women with intimacy in their marriages. Like, if you're afraid to niche, like that's a pretty ultra
Wow.
niche.
Yes, that is.
And her business, has gone from like 50K to 500K, and we're growing it this year in a year, pretty much.
Wow.
And now going to like 750 to a million. We'll have to see. We've launched
Hmm.
2 new programs, but she couldn't launch the membership. She couldn't launch the program for the husbands until she had the foundations down and felt like, okay, I can work through my fears and anxiety around money, and I have
Hmm.
you to support me through it. I'm like the secret weapon kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
because you will keep up leveling, right?
Hmm.
And so once you figure it out, you're not done. We're gonna need to like you kind of it's like an onion. Sometimes you cry, but you peel away new layers.
Hmm.
But each time you up level, that new level, new devil is true.
Yeah.
You know, and so I just really feel like there's so much possibility when we step into, being a dangerous woman who can be safe with money,
Hmm.
and can and is worthy of her dreams. And we realize that just because it's a belief I've been telling myself, we can dismantle those beliefs. We can recognize
Absolutely.
actually, why are they not true?
Hmm.
Like, is it that you're not good with money? Like, just look at all of the times when you have made really good decisions with money.
Hmm.
Like, wait a second, I guess I can be good with money.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
like, and
Challenging
that's
the
the
beliefs.
both. That's the
Yeah.
I can be successful and I can need a bookkeeper to do my books.
Hmm.
Totally
Yeah.
acceptable, you
I
know?
love that you share those stories too, because, one of the things that's so important in a community of women is that we do share these stories so that
Mhm.
other people can see what's possible. It's not about, oh, let me brag about how much money I'm making. It's no, like I did this thing, and so that means it's possible for you too. And for you, it's like I can show you how.
Right.
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 And I love, I talk about mindset all the time, but I
I know.
love including money in this because
Yeah.
it's the same thing. The mindset beliefs, the challenging these things that you've always believed, the
Mhm.
generational thoughts that a lot of us carry forward is like, well, that's not what we do in this family, and that's not the way that we handle money, and the thoughts about wealthiness and what that means. Like, I love that you do this work because it's
Mhm.
so necessary. And I think, when we think about our lives, money is a part of it. And money, like you said, is what we use to make impact,
Right.
to show up bigger in the world. It's not about like showing up on Instagram, showing off and buying Lamborghinis, although you can buy a Lamborghini if you want to.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like,
Right. If
that's
that's
part of it.
what you
Right.
want, then you go for it. Yeah.
And I tell, my clients, and even when I go through my own evaluation of, like, I do things on a scale of 1 to 10. Where am I with
Mm-hmm.
money? What would be a 10? What would that look like? And
Yes.
that can
And how would
include
that
giving,
feel?
right? How would it feel? And it
Mm-hmm.
can be our and, right? I can buy all the designer shoes I want, and I can give a ton of money away. And I
Yeah.
can, right? It doesn't have to be like all of this. I just want to, be very altruistic. You can do both, right?
Right.
When you have the money, you get to do both. And I
Right.
think that's a wonderful thing about dealing with your mindset blocks around
Mhm.
money, is that it just empowers you to show up in a way and to make impact in a way differently than if you didn't do these things.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm
I
here
love
for
it.
everything you're
So
talking
true.
about. Please tell me about this program, because I'm already ordering the book. Now I'm like, come on, dangerous women. We all need to be in Belinda's program.
I love it. I love it. And the last piece I just wanted to mention on the effort, by
Effort.
the way,
Yes.
is that a part of our like money entanglement is
Mm-hmm.
around thinking that we have to work harder to make more money.
Yes.
And so, and again, that could be a whole separate conversation, but just to start to shine some light that that's just a belief, right?
Yes.
That actually, if you could start to believe instead, what if it's the less I work, the more I make? Because
Yeah.
then maybe you're doing the right things instead of doing all the things. Or
Mm-hmm.
you're more tied to what are the 20% that's going to yield me 80% of the results.
Right.
And we focus on those things. So instead of trying to have 8 offers, we figure out what's the like specific offer that you're the most tied to, that you get the best results, and then that's what we lean into. And we
Mm-hmm.
make sure that that offer is irresistible, and that offer is like, take my money now,
Yeah.
because when you're trying to do all the things, it's like, what's the saying, like you can't catch more than one rabbit at a time, because you'll be like running in all the spots. It's like you
Yeah.
just can't do it.
Yeah.
And so I want to sort of have that be something that
That's a good point too,
our
because I think a
listeners
lot
start
of
to
that
look
is,
at, be like,
can
wait a
be
second, is that
generational, right? Like
totally,
the
totally.
generational thought that you got to work harder, you got to work
Yeah.
harder in order to make
And I
money.
mean,
And
it's very much the employee mindset that we're taught. Like, I absolutely
mm-hmm.
get it. Part of it
Mm-hmm.
is patriarchy, employee, but like,
Mm-hmm.
you will be, if you run a business, you will be the overworked employee as a solopreneur in your own business, feeling
Yes.
trapped and burnt out until you learn how to become the CEO.
Yes.
And it's like, it's that, how a couple sessions ago you talked about like the power of I don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that like growth mindset where it's like, how can we say, I just don't know this yet, but what do I need to
Right.
learn? And so in Cash Flow CEO, that's the program, or the Cash Flow CEO Accelerator, we call it now. So it's a 4-month container where I really get to work directly with a small group. We max it at 20. And our first graduating class just had 8 in it. And I've been doing this program now for 3.5 years, but it was more of
Mm-hmm.
a digital program and like a DIY. And what I got to is that I didn't just want to teach it to people. I wanted to actually help you week by week implement it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like of those 8 people, one took her run rate from a $250,000 a year to a $500,000 a year.
Wow.
Another one took her membership that was feeling stuck and had a trouble with attrition, like people leaving, from 200 net to 272 net.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, because they could create the foundation to sustainably scale their revenue and their profits. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people who weren't paying themselves enough, like did the pay yourself calculator, and they're like, great, I know my goals now. Let's go do it. because that
Yeah.
information is so powerful so that you can move through it. And I really see that we're up leveling you in four major categories. One is your CEO mindset. It's that identity I
Mhm.
need you to shift into, and getting clear on your emotions and upgrading where needed, and rewriting the money story in a lot of cases. Like those
Mhm.
beliefs are often sourced back at a story from when we were young. Also the tactics. So you need to up level your money system, because a lot of times, I just came back from this financial blogger conference, and there are a lot of financial bloggers who are like, yeah, I don't have separate bank accounts, or I don't have a business credit card yet, or,
Mhm.
they're not organized in a way that is going to give them the foundation to build on. So they're
Mhm.
trying to build a skyscraper with like sand as the foundation. They're wondering why it's not holding up, why they don't feel confident putting themselves out into the world,
Yeah.
because they will just put more stress, right? As they put more zeros on their revenue and
Right.
profits, they'll put more stress on themselves because they don't have a solid system underneath them. Next one is up leveling strategy. So it's being able to have a vision, decide on the right revenue goals with the right offers, with the right rates, and to actually have a profit plan that you
Mhm.
set up, that you manage towards. So it's not this like bank balance decision making, like, oh, what do I have in my bank account today? I can go
Right.
buy this. It's like you can see the plan and you make decisions. This is what I want to launch when. This is the offer that's really making me the money. It's like it's teaching you how, because we never
Mhm.
learn this, right? We have our expertise and we never learn these elements of money, because this is
Right.
like next level, right? This isn't necessarily just like make your first dollar. This is
Right.
like, okay, you're on track for 100K, but you also know that you want to be at 500K in a few years, and you know that your current systems and your understanding of money aren't going to get you there, because as you go over 100K in revenue, it does get more complicated.
Mhm.
Like, you do have to make sure that we've dialed in your payment processing, that you have the right tax entity, that do you know what I mean? Like, there's other
Yeah.
things that matter. And then the last one is up leveling your support system, right?
Mhm.
Because that's a big deal too, because I don't want you doing it all yourself. I feel
Right.
like if you can do it all yourself, your vision is not big enough.
Mhm.
And so, like, I believe that people who come to me have a big impact that they want to make. And so I want to see them have the coach, the community, and the team to support them, and to be able to map out, how do I afford the team that I want?
Right.
So we're really creating the financial roadmap to 2 to 5x your business.
I love
That's what
that.
we're about. Yeah.
I love that. So, who is your program for? If our listeners are, is it for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs? If I'm in corporate, is it beneficial for me? If I got a side hustle, who do you think is the best fit for your program?
So the cash flow CEO is for those who are on track for 100K. So say you're already at like a, 5 to 6K per $1,000 per month
Mm-hmm.
in your business. And it could be a side hustle. Like, I do have somebody now who like has a job and she's growing her business. It's all in this for experts and coaches, right?
Okay.
So what she's doing in her current work that's paying the bills is helping facilitate the growth that we're creating over here, because I want it to be the kind of thing that you're not bringing a level of desperation. So if you
Right.
need to still be in a job, so be it. Ideally, it's connected to the business that we're creating,
Mm-hmm.
right? But so you're at that $5,000 to $6,000 per month. You're growing to $8,000, $10,000 a month, and you want to keep growing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're starting to feel that like stuck, burnt out. I want to pay myself more. I want to be able to do projections. I don't know what I'm doing. It's all a little bit confusing and a little scary, maybe. And sometimes it shows up. My most recent person so we're reopening it in November. And when I meet people and I'm talking with them and they would be a great fit, I'm like, okay, take one of the spots, because it's a very limited number of spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she's already making over $100,000, but she's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Number one. Number two, I
Yeah.
know that, and she understands a lot of this stuff around worthiness and beliefs and stuff, right? She's a therapist, but
Mm-hmm.
yet she would like plan her launches super last minute,
Mm-hmm.
or like not really know what is the next thing she should be working on, because she doesn't have a profit plan.
Right.
Like, sometimes the indicators are a little bit different, right? Sometimes people are thinking too small. We had $1 million business owner take it. We totally repriced all of her packages. We increased her profit by 40% by doing that.
Wow.
So it's like a lot of times the women who come into the program are doing 80 to 90% right. But the 10 to 20% that they're not doing is
Making a
going
big
to
difference.
sabotage everything else that's working.
Yeah.
So it's in corporate if you are committed to building up this business,
Mm-hmm.
this expert or coaching business.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's mainly for the full-time entrepreneur who knows that she wants to scale, but she doesn't yet feel confident with her money. She's not
Yeah.
paying herself quite what she wants. She knows that there's growth, there's more she can be doing, but she also knows she's kind of in her own way about it.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and hasn't really ever learned some of these really important elements. So,
Yeah.
so I'm here to be that like advisor, secret weapon, guide, to help people through to achieve that next level and achieve growth at that new level. Because for
Yes.
me, it's very much like, who do you need to be? How do I help you become that CEO at that next
Absolutely.
level so that you as a woman evolve? And then you will notice you will be attracting, if you're single, better men into your life. You'll be attracting better clients into your life. Like
Mm-hmm.
you will be up leveling as you've up leveled all of the back end of your business. So,
Yeah.
and if you're just starting out, I have other little workshops like a Get Smart with Your Business Money or Raise Your Rates or stuff like that. If you're not yet on track for 100K, I have some other resources that I can give you too.
I love that. Is everything on your website?
I will provide you the links for some of those.
Okay.
We are about to embark on a website upgrade.
Oh, good
Um,
luck.
yeah, I know. So we didn't even get into this, and I have to run to a session now. But I was diagnosed with early stage breast cancer a few months ago,
Oh,
and
goodness.
yeah, so it was going to be a summer project, but I had a
Yeah.
different summer project that took my time instead.
Yes.
So kind of working through that now. And but like it has made me that much more committed to helping women be
Absolutely.
able to create the freedom-based business so
Mm-hmm.
that if you need to take off time, if you need to find a way to really take care of yourself, you have the ability to do it. So
Oh my
that's
goodness.
what Own Your Money's all about.
I love this. Thank you so much. You are just, we could just talk forever. I feel like I'm
I
like,
look
I
forward
got
to
some
staying in touch with
questions.
you. Yeah.
I really appreciate your expertise and you bringing your passion, and it's so clear that you're so passionate about it. And not only that, but you get results not only for yourself but for your clients. So I'm going to have all of your links. Give me all the stuff. And we're going to hopefully have another conversation because I feel like there's more we can talk about around money because it is a part of being a dangerous woman. I want to thank
Absolutely.
you again for coming on. I will absolutely be praying for you
Thank
in
you.
your journey with cancer and know you're going to crush that. So we'll be praying for you as a community, and we would love to have you back.
I would love it. I'd love it. In the meantime, I'm over on Instagram at Own Your Money. Take a screenshot of this.
Own your
Subscribe to
money.
Crystal's podcast. Yep. And let us know your takeaway from this session today.
Please do. Thank you so much. And ladies, all of this information is going to be in there. Your course, the program starts in November.
Yeah, we
Right.
run a few cohorts a year. So if they're
Okay.
catching up on this after the fact, just get on the wait list. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you
Thanks so much.
so much.